If you're like me and you've consumed your fair share of media, then you have certain shows that have impacted you more than others. And as I looked over the list that I have enjoyed the most, there was a common variable amongst them. It's something that, even 5 years after having watched some of these shows, has allowed me to remember everything that happened. I know all the main characters' names, all the important themes, and the main plot of the series. This phenomena of being able to relay information about a subject after having only been presented with it once is called retention. So why do I retain certain series that I've seen 5 years ago better than series I've watched in the last few months? Well, after some reviewing, I found that all the series I had high retention for had something the series I had low retention for did not. And that something is immersion. So how does a viewer like you or me become immersed with someone else's creation? My best example would be nature itself, God's creation. Why do people go hiking? To burn calories? Do they do it for camaraderie with their friends maybe? No, the reason people go hiking is for the view, a 5 to 10 minute marvelous gander at the world's intrinsic beauty. People will haul ass for 2 hours up a rugged hillside just to look at some mountains and rivers. That seems kind of counterproductive, but that is because there is so much more going on in the experience of a view than just what you see. What makes the view so sought after by these hikers is the feeling of becoming overwhelmed. They hear sparrows chirping in the coniferous forests behind them, and even more distantly woodpeckers hammering away at trees looking for insects. They hear rivers rushing beneath their feet fed by glaciers that are millions of years old. They smell the river's accumulation of sediment, attached algae, and dissolved solids creating an aroma that cannot be found anywhere near human civilization. They see mountains that have been formed over billions of years by the shifting of tectonic plates, and large grazing herbivores roaming the meadows in the distance. They feel gusts of updraft coming from the hillside beneath them that have eroded this mountainside with the help of rivers and avalanches alike. These hikers are reminded of both the beauty around them and their insignificance in the midst of all of it. That is the attraction of the view. It is a sum of many microscopic, seemingly insignificant details that together immerse you in an overwhelming feeling of awe. So how do anime make you feel overwhelmed? The best instances I've seen share something in common with nature. They use tons of seemingly insignificant details to make you feel lost in the bigger picture. My favorite example of this is the market scene in the Cowboy Bebop movie. Spike is investigating a truck accident. It killed everyone in a 3-kilometer radius. But it wasn't the explosion that did it. It was the release of a pathogen. Spike has no leads, so he asks around town, talking to the usual suspects. But regardless of his detective abilities, seconds turn to minutes, minutes turn to hours, and the day is almost over. Until he is approached by an unusual man. The kind that finds you, not the other way around. Spike asks about the virus, and the unusual man alludes to Spike that he knows about it. But this fella's shady. A real greaseball, quick with his hands and even quicker on his feet. But quicker than those two things is his mouth. Always blabbering about some mystical nonsense, never giving you a straight answer. He knows the ins and outs of this city like the back of his hand. He says his name's Rashid. He's pretty famous with the people in the area, greeting them as Spike tags along, but also noticeably keeping his distance from Spike, a good 4 feet apart in every scene they're walking together. Finally, Rashid takes Spike to a clock shop with the entrance of a crawl space. There he gives Spike a vase, and says it's a great vase for you and you should take it. And then he leaves. No names, no addresses, no nothing. Spike takes the vase as that is now his only lead. Just on the way out, Spike sees a woman, and they do the whole walk past each other in slow motion bit. It's basically the movie's way of saying that this is gonna be an important character. But just like that, the scene ends. And Spike, like the viewer, is totally confused. There are so many questions the viewer has. In this scene, the viewer becomes completely lost, overwhelmed with all kinds of questions, and is effectively immersed into the story. Later, Ed finds a sample of the virus in the vase on accident, and this leads to a second confrontation with Rashid. There, Rashid reveals that his name is actually Dr. Mendelo. He made the virus for a company testing to use it in biological warfare. The weaponizer of the virus is the sole survivor of an experiment to create an antivirus to the virus. The experiment required him to be used as a guinea pig, and so he's using this virus to kill the entire planet. as bad guys do. The company that created the virus wants to keep things quiet, tie up every loose end, so they employed people like this lady to go and deal with Dr. Mendelo. This scene explains who Rashid really is, why he keeps his distance from Spike, and what exactly he's running from. The reason this scene was so immersive is because the viewer got lost in this fictitious world. They were overwhelmed by its many details and left in awe by the bigger picture. In the same way why a hiker hauls ass up a hillside, a viewer explores a series from beginning to end. Both accumulate details about the big picture without being able to see it clearly, and we sit on the edge of our seats until the very end of the journey, where the final battle or view is revealed. Immersion is all about details. So then why is immersion such a necessity for an anime? Well, I think it's actually pretty easy to answer. If something happens to break my immersion, I no longer want to watch that show. It is hard to maintain an immersive story, and it is really easy to break it. Here are just a few ways I've seen my immersion broken. The use of tropes or repetitive characters, fan service, overly edgy voice acting performances, shitty animation, and stupid motivation. Basically, anytime someone does something a real person wouldn't do. With just those 5 descriptions alone, that makes like 95% of anime kind of unwatchable. And that is why immersion is such a necessity, because if the show is immersive, it stands out amongst everything else. And that is also why immersion is, in my opinion, the most valuable characteristic for an anime to have. If you can make me feel like this is real, then I will watch to the end. At that point, I will be so hooked into the story that I won't even care what it's about. All of my favorite shows are incredibly different in their plots, characters, settings, and art styles, but the one thing they share in common is that they're extremely immersive. But something I noticed that helps propel immersion to another level is when creators use it to convey a message. So then how is immersion used to convey messages? I believe it is done through relatability. If we are immersed into an anime, then we can also become immersed into its characters, and these characters can have conflicts with each other and with themselves, showing each and every viewpoint in an idea. A great example of this is Prince Ashitaka in Princess Mononoke. The message I think Hayao Miyazaki, the creator of Studio Ghibli, is trying to say with this movie is that nature needs to be conserved. There are multiple parties trying to use nature to their benefit. Some have noble motivations, and others are entirely based out of greed, but the common denominator is that the forest and its animals are feeling the heat from these people's interactions with it. And Prince Ashitaka is a single man from a remote and indigenous tribe pushed to the furthest corner of where their habitat still remains. He has been tasked with finding out why the forest is so angry, and is the only one who wants to find peace for both the people and the animals. The message in this story isn't elusive or abstract like other shows. It's a slap in the face, and I believe it was designed to be that way. People need to work together, not only with themselves, but with the forest, in order for every respective party to get along. Prince Ashitaka is such a relatable character because he is kind of powerless throughout the movie. He never actually stops any of the characters from fulfilling their motivations. All he's able to do is try. And when he tries, he is shot, stabbed, betrayed, and his efforts seem meaningless. Just like everyday people, we see big companies like Coca-Cola that dump its waste into the rivers of Mexico, destroying nearby towns' water supplies, and we say, what the hell could we possibly do to stop that? We are just as powerless as Ashitaka is, but he was able to make a difference. And we are able to do as well, if we just continue to try. So if an anime has both an immersive world that makes you feel lost and overwhelmed with its many details, and it gives you relatable characters that provide real-world messages, then how can immersion be used to impact real people? I know that after watching Princess Mononoke, I loved its themes and the message, and I wanted to start doing something about it. But I don't know many other people that thought the same way as me. Vinland Saga, on the other hand, has had such an incredible and widespread impact that it shows the value of immersion. Now, I don't have any graphs or data to validate my claim, but I do have eyewitness testimony. Everybody I know that has seen this show absolutely loves it. Every Reddit chat, every YouTuber. I think you could ask anybody that has seen it and they would tell you that it has changed their life in some way or another. It has so many messages that can invoke reflection upon its watchers through its characters. Redemption, honor, anti-violence, humanity, leadership. I could make a whole video about its impact, but the point is, immersion allows anime to not only reach a greater audience, but also benefits people's lives with the stories within them. Immersion is so valuable in an anime because it's easy to mess up. It's so giving to consumers. Imagine if Vinland Saga had any of those things I said that ruin immersion, like fan service or tropiness. It wouldn't have nearly the effect that it does, because nobody would take it seriously. If a creator can manage to pull all of the pieces of the puzzle together in an overwhelming setting with a realistic and or relatable cast and a message that hits home, then it has the ability to change the world. So now we know exactly what immersion is, its many properties, its uses, and its vitality. But what makes it beautiful? I believe it has to do with the requirement of many details. Everything that is considered beautiful is done over many days, months, or even years. Paintings, music, movies are all creations of one edition at a time. And over the course of a project's duration, those editions number in the thousands, even millions. There are so many that a single person couldn't possibly notice all of them. And that overwhelming experience is beautiful because it is a chance to take part in the creator's imagination. Their settings become tangible, their characters become real, and their message is expressed through the media. But only an immersive anime can create that experience. Immersion is beautiful because it's rare, because it's an impactful experience, and because it is remiss of laziness and compromise. That is the beauty of immersion.